Ariel West had always been golden, not just in the way the sun caught her hair, which tumbled in long, shimmering waves with streaks of honey and caramel highlights, but in the way she seemed to glow when she walked into a room. At 21, she had already developed a signature style that combined rebellion and elegance. A collection of black leather jackets that smelled faintly of motor oil and perfume, leather skirts that hugged her curves, pants that snapped softly when she moved, and dresses that were as sleek as they were daring. Her blue eyes, sharp and icy, seemed to pierce through the pretensions of anyone who dared to judge her. Her life, however, wasn't as free as her exterior suggested. Behind the leather and the confident stride lay a tangle of constraints and expectations. Ariel's parents were proud, protective, and controlling in a way that clashed with her need for self-expression. Her boyfriend, Gabriel, adored her in a possessive, almost obsessive way, especially her hair. "Don't cut it too short," he would say. "It's perfect just like it is." The paradox of Ariel's life was clear. She craved transformation, change, and experimentation, but the people she loved, or at least depended upon, treated her like fragile glass. And yet, there was someone who encouraged her to push boundaries. Her girlfriend, Mara. Mara was everything Ariel wasn't. Spontaneous, unpredictable, and untethered. She experimented with her hair constantly. Fiery red, icy platinum, deep midnight blue, pixie cuts, shoulder-length waves, sometimes even shaved sides with long fringes cascading over them. Ariel admired Mara's fearlessness and secretly longed to try something similarly daring with her own hair. But fear of judgment, of disappointment, had always tethered her aspirations. The day began like any other, the golden light of late spring streaming through the large bay windows of Ariel's family home. She had been lounging in her usual black leather pants and a cropped jacket, her long blonde hair spread over her shoulders as she scrolled through social media. Her phone buzzed with a message from Mara. "I went platinum last night. You'd look amazing if you tried something bold, too. Don't hold back, babe." Ariel smiled wistfully, knowing she couldn't. Not now. Not with her parents hovering in the next room, commenting on how perfectly golden her hair was. Not with Gabriel waiting at home, anxiously questioning every inch she intended to cut. By the time she reached the hairdresser that afternoon, she had made a silent decision. A trim. Shorter than usual, more layered, but far from drastic. Nothing that would threaten the collective peace of her household, but enough to feel like she had exercised some control. The stylist, an energetic woman named Celeste, worked with a confident flair Ariel secretly envied. Snipping and clipping, brushing away the strands that fell like golden confetti, Celeste transformed Ariel's hair from long, cascading waves to a shoulder-length cascade with choppy layers. Ariel looked at herself in the mirror, fingers running through the new length, and felt a small rush of empowerment. Ariel returned home, trying to ignore the gnawing anxiety that had begun in the back of her mind. Her parents were sitting in the living room, their expressions caught somewhere between concern and disappointment. Gabriel, who had come over to surprise her, froze mid-step when he saw her. "Oh, you cut it," he said, his voice careful, testing, almost wounded. Just a little," Ariel said, her voice small, unsure of how to defend herself. Her mother rose, moving with the grace of someone accustomed to controlling every outcome. She reached out, touching Ariel's hair lightly, almost reverently. It's too short. Why would you do this without asking us?" Her father's voice was softer, but no less firm. "We've always told you that your hair is beautiful, Ariel. You shouldn't change it. You don't need to." Mara's text seemed to burn in her pocket, a silent reminder that someone somewhere encouraged her daring. Yet here, in her own home, she felt like a child being scolded. Gabriel finally spoke, his hands gesturing helplessly. "It looks okay, I guess. But it's different. And I don't like different." The unspoken rule was clear. Ariel's hair existed not for her, but for them. Her body and choices were supposed to align with their vision of beauty. And then her mother's words came. soft and terrible. We're taking you back to the salon. You need to understand what it means to respect your hair and us. Ariel's stomach dropped. She opened her mouth to protest, to explain, but the words died there. She could feel the iron of inevitability pressing against her chest. The next day, Ariel was led to a familiar salon, the fluorescent lights buzzing faintly overhead. Celeste, her stylist from the previous day, greeted her with a puzzled frown. "Your parents? Again?" Celeste asked quietly. Ariel just shook her head. Words weren't enough. They had made the appointment. They had chosen the stylist. They had chosen the style. "Sit," her mother said, pushing a chair toward the center of the salon floor. "You'll understand why we made this decision." Ariel's fingers shook slightly as she sat. Her eyes scanned the salon, landing on a glossy black PVC cape, stiff and shiny, hanging on a hook nearby. "You'll wear this," her mother said. Ariel's pulse quickened. PVC was heavy, impervious, and almost claustrophobic. She felt trapped the moment it touched her shoulders. Celeste slipped the cape over her, the cold material sticking slightly to her bare arms. This is really happening," Ariel whispered to herself. Her parents stood on either side, their hands almost hovering, ready to intervene if she resisted. Gabriel's face was taut with tension, and Ariel felt a wave of conflicting emotions: anger, fear, and shame. "I don't want this," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "You'll understand," her father said. "Sometimes we have to make decisions for your own good." The stylist nodded, setting down the scissors, but this wasn't a haircut anymore. Celeste's expression softened. She could sense Ariel's anxiety, but there was nothing she could do. The parents had given the order, and the salon staff obeyed. The clippers buzzed to life. The sound was sharp, metallic, and it made Ariel's stomach lurch. The vibration hummed against her scalp as Celeste approached, starting at the nape of her neck. The first strip of hair fell, sliding down the PVC cape like strands of sunlight turning to shadow. Ariel's breath hitched. "Stop," she whispered. But the buzzing continued, relentless. The black cape seemed to shrink around her, trapping her in a cocoon of cold plastic. Celeste worked methodically, following the contours of Ariel's head, removing layer after layer. Ariel could feel the air against her scalp for the first time in years, the cool touch almost shocking. Tiny hairs clung to her skin and stuck to the sticky cape, some falling to the floor in soft golden tufts. Her mother hovered, watching every movement, her expression unreadable. Gabriel's hands clenched, but he did nothing to intervene. When Celeste reached the sides and the top, she paused. "This will feel different," she warned, her voice gentle. She tilted the clippers, removing the last locks of blonde hair. Ariel's head was bare, completely bare. Ariel stared at her reflection in the mirror, hardly recognizing herself. Her blue eyes seemed brighter against the stark contrast of bare skin. She felt exposed, vulnerable, and utterly small. Tears ran down her cheeks, dripping onto the PVC cape. I hate it," she whispered, her voice breaking. Her parents said nothing, satisfied in their control. Gabriel looked at her, conflicted. "You'll get used to it," he said finally, but the words were hollow. Ariel left the salon that day feeling like she had lost something irrevocable. She avoided mirrors, avoided reflections, and wrapped herself in leather and scarves as if they could shield her from the world. Or from herself. Days passed. Ariel moved through her life cautiously, hiding the smooth contour of her scalp beneath hats and hoods. Leather jackets became more than style. They were armor. And yet, beneath the fear and shame, something unexpected stirred. One evening, alone in her room, Ariel lifted her hood and touched her scalp. The smoothness was strange, yet exhilarating. There was a sense of liberation, of shedding expectations alongside hair. She ran her fingers along the curves of her head, feeling the subtle ridges and the softness of her skin. A laugh, soft and incredulous, escaped her lips. She looked in the mirror and for the first time saw not just the loss, but the power in it. The way light reflected off her scalp, the way her eyes seemed sharper, more intense. She experimented with makeup, earrings, and her leather outfits, realizing that her style didn't depend on hair. By the end of the week, Ariel no longer hid. She strutted down the streets in her leather skirts and jackets, bareheaded, radiating an edgy confidence that made people turn. Friends and strangers alike admired her fearlessness. Even Mara, when she visited, touched her head and smiled. "See? You look amazing," she said, genuine awe in her voice. Ariel's parents and Gabriel eventually softened, but she no longer needed their validation. She had discovered something deeper: freedom, control over her own body and identity. The thrill of rebellion realized. The black PVC cape, once a symbol of constraint, had become a catalyst for transformation. She leaned back in her chair one night, looking at herself in the mirror, her blue eyes gleaming, and whispered, "I'm not just okay. I'm incredible.